So I'm a little bit different. I've asked for shared sacrifice.
Governor Daniel P. Malloy, Daniel Patrick Malloy, and Oprah are a little bit different. Actually, a lot the same. You get a tax, you get a tax, you get a tax, you get a tax. Cumulatively, has anyone raised taxes more over a 2-year period? I don't think so. And the other thing I wanted to talk about with Romano, the head of the state Republican Party, is whether or not we can see a red wave, which they're now predicting across the country, because of anger over the way the Democrats acted in the Supreme Court. Will it result in a red wave, or the Reds or the Republicans moving into this, taking control of the State House? Joining me on the hotline right now, the head of the Republican Party, or chairman of the Republican Party here in Connecticut, J.R. Romano. Hey, J.R., thank you for joining me.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Listen, a lot of people are talking about the blue wave crashing and possibly a red wave rising, or at least an equal amount, thanks to the way Democrats behaved during the Kavanaugh nomination. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm mixed on that. I think over the last 2 years, you've seen kind of Democrats in a consistent and persistent state of rage. So during the polling, these Democrats are really just dead set on trying to overturn the election results. And as we're getting closer to election, more and more people are paying attention. So things may be coming closer to par is probably what's happening.
Yeah, you think that it's more, as it always has been, it'll be more 50-50 rather than a blue wave. It'll be more of the same, essentially.
Well, I mean, look, my scope and lens is here in Connecticut, and
Sure.
What we see is that average hardworking families, like in New Britain, Connecticut, Derby, Connecticut, all these families who are struggling with the high cost of living, high taxation, and it's a direct result of policies that are pushed by Democrats here in Connecticut. And I don't mean, the Democrats living in like my hometown in Derby. I'm talking about the elected leaders who are unwilling to face the facts that Connecticut is in fiscal crisis, and they're, instead of looking to cut government and waste and fraud and abuse, they're looking for new ways to raise revenue, which is code word for take more money out of your pocket. And so as more and more people go to the polls and they realize that the policies of the Democrats are always the same, which is to raise taxes, to make government bigger, to quote unquote try to help you, but it only continues to get worse.
Let me play a soundbite and get a reaction from you if I can. This is Donald Trump in Kansas over the weekend. He went after Dick Blumenthal, but also after the state as well.
And he stopped campaigning because there was no way you could win. No way. And because it's Connecticut, where I guess only a Democrat, can you believe this? That's why Connecticut's such a mess right now. Only a Democrat wins. You got to see it's a mess. General Electric just moved out. That doesn't help.
He went after Dick Blumenthal and Connecticut as well. I mean, we are the laughingstock in Kansas?
Well, I think the problem, and this is when the quote-unquote shining star, Dick Blumenthal for the Democratic Party, talking about honor and honesty as someone who lied about his military service in order to win votes. There's this kind of irony, I think, and that was the president was talking about. But he's not wrong when it comes to our fiscal stability. We have a state that is in the precipice of unseen debt. I mean, when we're raising taxes and then bonding money for things like a splash pad, when we're cutting education and hospital funding, and we're creating positions, true story, called the Director of Culture. It literally sounds like something out of the Communist Manifesto. Yet, while we're slashing budgets for high schools and hospitals, the state of Connecticut created that position So almost to say to the people, don't worry, guys. Don't worry about the fact that your son or daughter is losing their teacher's aide. We have a director of culture, so we're on the right path.
What does a director of culture do, JR?
I have no idea. Maybe you can call the one of probably Connecticut's worst economic development commissioners ever.
It sounds almost like under socialism, they direct the proper culture in every school system.
Who knows? But this is so. You want to know why Ned Lamont talks about and does this fear-mongering about property taxes will rise? Because what he thinks exactly like Dan Malloy does. When times got tough for this state, Dan Malloy didn't cut government spending. Dan Malloy didn't cut these programs and these positions and all of this duplication of services. He went after local budgets. He wanted people to feel the pain, to make local and average people be afraid of tax cuts. And that's why Ned Lamont is fear-mongering with that nonsense, because he thinks exactly like Dan Malloy, because that's what Dan Malloy did, that's what Ned Lamont would do. Bob Stefanowski is going to cut 5% of waste, fraud, and abuse in Connecticut state government, and there isn't a listener you have that doesn't believe that there's 5% of waste, fraud, and abuse in this state.
Connecticut has a new director of culture, and it has a end of it as well. There's a full name. It's culture committee or something.
The person left for a new job.
Oh, they did.
They created it for this person, and then the person left within a few months.
Well, there you go. Listen, you're taxing hospitals, private hospitals, you're taxing them right out of business. And at the same time, you're pouring millions of dollars into Connecticut's Yukon Health Center. Not that it's not a fine center, their doctors aren't fine, but it sounds like you're trying to direct every patient in the state to the state hospital. It sounds like state-run medicine, JR.
We are a mess. And let's not forget the whole toll thing, where Ned Lamont says he's going to only tax trucks. Guess what? That's in front of the Supreme Court, and it's going to get overturned. Rhode Island is being taken to court right now. It is still, in all likelihood, it is not going to pass the muster. And so what have Democrats done? They put tolls up, and when you're not allowed to just to toll tractor trailers, they're going to start tolling you and your family.
Yeah,
this is a Pandora's box that the Democrats are trying to open. And by the way, anyone listening, it is illegal to put tolls on the border. We can't do it. It is against federal regulation and law. So if you believe out there anywhere that you can put tolls on the border, it's not true. This is a backdoor to raise more revenue off the backs of hardworking families in this state. That's what the Democrats want to do.
In this particular case, you have a Democratic candidate for governor running on the fact that we are going to apparently tax ourselves back into prosperity, pay off our debt. When have you ever been able to tax a populace into prosperity?
Well, you know what's funny about that, Jim, is that Ned Lamont had a press conference attacking President Trump for tariffs, which a tariff is essentially a tax on a foreign good, and said how bad these tariffs are. Well, in one breath, Ned recognizes taxes are bad, right? Because he's literally claiming how tariffs will raise the price of goods. Okay, so at least they get it. But then in the same breath says, oh no, but we're going to raise taxes here because it'll be good for us here. It makes no sense. At least the president is using those tariffs as a negotiating tactic to bring these foreign countries to the table to renegotiate better trade deals. In the case of the Democrats, it's just to raise revenue for more government spending. There's no logic behind it. It's simply to take care of their special interests. And that's one of the reasons why this state is failing. Our gas tax is one of the highest in the country. Now we're going to add tolls to it. Our property tax, highest in the country. Worst place to do business in. Everything, every economic measure we have failed, and it's because Democrats have controlled not only the governor's office in the last 8 years, it's controlled the legislature for the last 30. And that is one of the reasons we have failed, because the policies of the Democratic Party, when it comes to the economy, are disastrous.
Well, when I tell my audience that Connecticut's financial situation has become a laughingstock, rather a crying stock on Wall Street, now we know Connecticut is the laughingstock fiscally nationwide. I mean, if you're hitting home in Kansas and people get the joke and they're laughing, I mean, everybody knows about Connecticut at this point. Connecticut is like kryptonite. You don't want to go near it.
Well, particularly if you're a business. And the part of the equation that the Democrats don't understand, they preach this, tax the wealthy, tax the wealthy. What they fail to recognize is we've had, I think in the last 10 years, 7 billionaires leave. A billionaire in tax revenue terms can represent anywhere between $50 and $100 million in tax revenue to the state of Connecticut. So you lose 7 of them, guess what's going to happen? You're going to have huge holes and deficits. But here's the part the Democrats don't understand. When that billionaire leaves, they don't sell their house. They just throw sheets on the furniture and come back in the summer. So there's no one actually replacing their revenue. And that's the part that escapes them, because they think, well, if they're leaving, someone must replace them. They're not being replaced.
I'm sorry. I apologize for that.
Gotcha.
Let me play one more soundbite and see if I can get you to comment on this. This is Lindsey Graham yesterday on Fox News Sunday.
Interviews in the second background check. It doesn't sound like this is going to end.
Well, we'll know in November if that makes sense. I hope everybody running for the House in these purple districts will be asked the question, do you support impeaching Judge Kavanaugh based on 5 allegations, none of which could be corroborated? Do you want an outcome so badly that you would basically turn the law upside down? All I can say is that this is going to the streets at the ballot box. I've never campaigned against a colleague in my life. That's about to change.
So he is going to campaign against his colleagues, but he said, I want every Democratic candidate running for office to be asked, for Congress or for the Senate, to be asked, would you be willing to impeach or overturn a duly nominated and confirmed Supreme Court justice on frivolous, not frivolous, but uncorroborated charges? And you have to get their answers. And I wonder if anybody's going to ask Joanna Hayes that, or anyone else, or Chris Murphy that.
Well, these are questions that the media should ask. Because they're relatively insulated here. It's interesting is I've talked to a couple of media outlets and trying to almost force them to talk to Matt Corey, who's running against Chris Murphy. And if you don't like Chris Murphy, I highly encourage you to go to Matt Corey's website and give him a donation, because this is exactly the point: is the Democrats don't want to almost accept the election results. They want to use attorneys and lawsuits and all this rhetoric to essentially do whatever they deem is correct. And this whole case of, our Constitution protects you're innocent until proven guilty. And apparently to a Democrat, that no longer exists. That no longer matters.
Yes, and somebody should ask them that question as well. I mean, I'd love to ask them, but they won't come on my show, JR. You know that.
They don't go anywhere that's not friendly territory. As someone who has gone to lectures in New Haven to talk about sanctuary cities and was booed, and because I think the problem in political discourse today is that no one, particularly on the left, they do not want to be challenged on their ideals. They don't want to have a discussion about the failure in their policy. Take, for example, the sanctuary cities where, Casey Chadwick was murdered by someone who was here illegally, let out of prison by the state of Connecticut, never turned over to ICE authorities. 2 weeks later, she was murdered. This is a state, we don't want to talk about school choice. Democrats don't want to talk about school choice. This is a state that put a single African-American woman, separated her from her son for stealing an education. She got 12 years for stealing an education in this state.
That was unreal. That was unreal, JR. That was an unreal case. Look, I got to go. I'm way over time here. But JR Romano is the head of the Connecticut Republican Party. JR, thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. Take care. Got to take a break. We'll be right back.